Beneath the glistening surface of what seems a serene ocean lies a grotesque tableau rarely witnessed by the casual observer. Imagine a dolphin, usually a symbol of grace and vitality, now reduced to a living patchwork of decay and invasion. Its sleek skin, once a canvas of smooth curves and shimmering blues, is marred by a ghastly portrait of muscle infestation, a wound so horrific it might arrest your breath in its raw, unsettling reality. The injury itself is a labyrinthine wound, a festering cavity where sharp-edged muscles have embedded their calcareous shells deep into the flesh. A natural Iron Maiden created by marine opportunists. Mussels are not typically seen as the cruel antagonists of the ocean, but in this twisted scenario, they have transformed this dolphin into a grotesque host. The wound is an open gateway, allowing these bivalve parasites to anchor firmly. The outer edges of the wound are swollen and inflamed, oozing a dark, viscous fluid that pools in the recesses, a cocktail of decaying tissue and microbial colonies thriving in the nutrient-rich wound environment. The sound of the waves lapping against the shoreline is a stark contradiction to the quiet horror playing out below. Each mussel's shell claws into living flesh, their byssal threads, tiny, fibrous filaments, acting like relentless stitches that prevent the wound from healing, ensuring an endless supply of nutrients trickle from the dolphin's blood. As these mussels multiply, they form a dense mat of sharp shells, crusted with barnacles and encrusted algae, turning the dolphin's flesh into a barnyard of decay. The invasive mussels are not merely silent passengers. Their presence causes a slow but agonizing necrosis of the skin and underlying muscles, provoking inflammation that swells and puckers the dolphin's smooth form grotesquely. In the heart of the African savanna, a chilling scene unfolds, one that seems torn from the pages of a dark fairy tale, where beauty and horror intertwine. A white lion, regal and magnificent, lies motionless on the sun-baked ground. This ethereal creature, often revered for its rare and stunning appearance, is marred by a gruesome wound that tells a tale of torment. An infestation of bees, the lion's pristine fur, usually a beacon of purity, is now a canvas of chaos where thousands of tiny, stinging bodies have turned into a living nightmare. As the sun glints off the lion's ivory mane, it casts shadows over a grotesque reality, drawing in anyone who dares to gaze upon this disturbing tableau, a reminder of the destructive forces of nature that lurk even where we least expect them. The wound is a gaping cavity, a sickening breach on the lion's flank. It is swollen and red, throbbing as if keeping time with the desperate heartbeat of its host. Swarms of bees, undeterred by the predatory giant in their midst, crawl in and out of the gash. They buzz incessantly, a maddening symphony that reinforces the horror of the scene. Each tiny insect carries a weight of agony for this magnificent beast, dissecting its flesh and injecting venom that amplifies its suffering. Beekeeping is usually a gentle art, but here, evolution reveals its darker side. Bees, often seen as gentle pollinators, transform into marauding entities, their instincts driving them to colonize a body much too large for their typical farming ground. As they swarm, a peculiar paradox arises. These creatures are both the architect of the lion's anguish and its potential saviors, for in their relentless pursuit of the decaying flesh lies the delicate balance of the ecosystem's rejuvenation. This bee infestation has turned the white lion into both a victim and a spectacle, drawing the attention of other wildlife creatures who observe from a distance, perhaps fascinated or perhaps frightened. Nature, in its ruthless cycle of life and death, tortures and teaches. The lion, once a symbol of supreme strength and dominance, now represents vulnerability. The underlying irony echoes through the ages. The king in the vast, untamed wilderness, where the sun casts long shadows over the rolling plains, a bison roams, its massive frame a testament to the raw power of nature. But this is no ordinary bison. It bears a gruesome wound, a gaping hole in its side, a horrific reminder of a wasp nest that has taken root in its flesh. The sight is shocking, a visceral encounter with the darker side of life on the prairie. As the camera zooms in, the viewer is drawn into a world where survival is not just a matter of strength, but also of endurance against the relentless forces of nature. Bison, a symbol of resilience, now stands as a canvas for the brutal reality of parasitic infestation. The wasps, tiny yet formidable, have found a way to infiltrate the bison's body, laying their eggs within the soft tissue. As the larvae hatch, they feast on the living flesh, creating a grotesque symbiosis that is both fascinating and repulsive. The bison, unaware of the impending doom, continues to graze, its massive body a host to a hidden horror. The wound, a festering site of infection, attracts other scavengers, a macabre circle of life that plays out in the harshness of the wild. The buzzing of the wasp fills the air, a chilling soundtrack to this gruesome spectacle, as they dart in and out of the wound, oblivious to the suffering they cause. This infestation is not merely a story of one bison's plight. It reflects a broader narrative of nature's cruelty and the delicate balance of ecosystems. Wasps, often vilified for their stings, play a crucial role in the environment, yet their parasitic behavior can lead to the suffering of their hosts. In this dark dance of life and death, we are reminded of our own place in the natural order. In the vast sun-baked stretches of the African savanna, where life claws its way through brutality and beauty alike, there lies a spectacle, both mesmerizing and grotesque. A white lion, its alabaster fur marred by a spreading, repulsive wound. This is not the regal king of the jungle basking in glory. Instead, it is a creature caught in the merciless grip of an insect infestation, a living canvas displaying nature's raw, unfiltered cruelty. The sight jolts the senses, compelling the observer to confront a scene both tragic and fascinating, a harsh, dark testament to survival and the unfathomable cycles of decay that govern existence. The wound, raw and ragged, bleeds oozing moisture, inviting a sinister swarm of insects whose hungry mandibles relentlessly feast upon the exposed flesh. These tiny tormentors, invisible from afar but omnipresent up close, are not merely accidental parasites but active participants in a grim ecological drama. The pristine white fur, once a symbol of rarity and purity, is now a breeding ground, a macabre stage where flies lay their eggs and maggots wriggle with unyielding appetite, burrowing deeper into the lion's flesh with sickening determination. The smell is a potent mix of rot and fever, an olfactory assault that speaks of infection and the irreversible march towards decay. This is the dark undercurrent beneath the romanticism of the wild's raw beauty. Here, disease and death ride alongside life and majesty. Insect infestation on this white lion unfolds as both a biological process and a grim kind of spectacle. The primary culprits are blowflies and botflies, insects with a brutal life cycle perfectly adapted to exploiting the vulnerable. Blowflies, attracted by the scent of open wounds and decay, congregate in thick, buzzing clusters, their metallic green bodies a stark contrast against the lion's pale fur. They deposit eggs in the moist, torn skin folds, which hatch into larvae, the maggots, that secrete enzymes to liquefy the surrounding tissue, consuming the lion's meat bit by agonizing bit. Botflies are even more insidious, often laying eggs on the skin or in fur, where the larvae burrow internally, creating painful pus-filled cysts beneath the surface. The lion's torment continues as these parasites hemorrhage its strength and sanity, making rest and grooming impossible, and inviting secondary infections from bacteria that colonize the